So an additional question that I think that a lot of gamers are asking right now is, aside from the UI mods and the macros and these kind of things for user content, there's a large demand out there for other types of things. We see new models once in a while being implemented into World of Warcraft and other games that are MMOs. Even though they are persistent worlds, on the user's end of it, they like to see things at least customizing their own visuals of that.
Single player type games allow for UI mods. I mean, character mods and models and add-ons like that for quite a while. Once you get into the MMO space, like you're mentioning, it gets a little bit different. For us, there's even a little extra hurdle with that, is that the visualization, everything you see in the game is owned by Games Workshop. I mean, it's our title, but the visual style, everything like that's owned by Games Workshop. They've got very specific ideas of the way things look. So the ability for players to change things as far as visual styles of what their character looks like, so that other players can see, is something that will probably never happen within the game itself for obvious reasons, because Games Workshop's like, no, there are no pink orcs. There will never be physically a pink orc, that kind of a thing. What type of things are available for players to be able to mod it so it's local content? It's not something we really discussed that much. That's obviously actually a really unique idea that I'll make sure to take back to the team and talk with Kristen and those about. If it is something that's available that you can do, is not something necessarily that'll be available at launch. But if that's something we do add, obviously we will trumpet that, and that'll be something we'll work with the modding community on and say, hey, look, this is something you can work on. But for right now, we're working on more about the concept of, again, the gameplay experience, the experience of making what you're doing being as efficient as possible through the actual actions that you take while in the game itself.
That's very cool. So feedback from the community. You mentioned that you have these beta testers who have been in for over a year now and working on the title, giving you some feedback on that. Once the game launches, from the user community, from the mod community, obviously I think that you guys are a great team, and obviously you're going to recognize when there's value out there and there's new mods coming out that may be something that all users should have access to, aside from just being online through community sites. Do you have any kind of feedback loop that you're developing, or have you thought about that much and be able to get a hold of that content and also give appreciation back to those users to let them know that, hey, we appreciate that, and this was, this idea kind of originated from so-and-so?
Actually, that's something we've talked about quite a bit. Kristen and I have actually had many a conversation about this. As Mythic, we've always prided ourselves in working with our community and having open lines of communications. We'll go out to the various fan sites. We don't host our own forums. We never have. That's something where we want the community to build itself, but we'll help it along. So we'll go to, in this case, third-party mod sites out there. We'll have a dedicated community team that'll be out there interacting with the fan base, and as we hear about mods and modders and see how things are, we'll go to these sites ourselves, or even other employees were like, hey, I went to this mod site. Here's this one mod that's been downloaded, 1 million times. This thing's amazing. We really need to look into this. That's the type of thing where, our community team would reach out to that mod author, talk to them about, what it took to make it, and work with them, and potentially even not necessarily bring them in house, but bring the mod concept in house, like you said. It would be really easy for us to say, hey, that's a really cool mod. We'll just absorb that concept into our next version and not do anything about it. But we really like the concept of, like you said, of kind of giving back to the community, of saying, hey, even if we don't use that mod exactly the way you wrote it, it doesn't hurt us to basically have some sort of thing in the game that basically says, or in patch notes or on the website or something somewhere saying, hey, this was an idea created by this person. We fully expect the modding community for Warhammer Online to be quite huge and actually quite close. We're going to try to work with them, again, through our community team, through the live team, as best as possible, so we can have this two-way communication back and forth.
That's very good. Thank you for that. Distribution also, are you going to let that be the community, or are you just planning on having any kind of links on your site to community sites that have distribution channels for the mod content? Anything like this that you've talked about or you're working on now?
We don't have anything first party, obviously. Like, we won't necessarily be hosting mods actually on our sites ourselves. But if you look at on the Dark Age of Camelot side, we're not afraid of linking to fan sites out there that are really at the top of their league as far as, hey, go here for this information. Oh, here's something this month, we're looking at this one guild. So on the modding side, again, it's going to be very important for Warhammer Online, very important for the modding community. That is something that we wouldn't necessarily shy away from. That we wouldn't necessarily say, hey, in this month, here's an interview, here's a view on this mod community over here. go take a look, that sort of thing. Or hey, this mod out there is something we're focusing on. You know, we've even done that in the beta where we've gone through guilds and say, okay, this month we're looking at this guild that's in this beta. Here's some information about them. That's what I was talking about with that two-way communication back and forth. It's really easy for us to just take some space on our website and say, this month's focus is on this mod, or this mod community, or this mod author. That's really easy for us to do, and it really, you know, lends itself back into the community even 10, 100-fold. Any specific plans? You know, nothing that I'm necessarily aware of this second, but it is something that has been talked about, and obviously we'll continue working towards as we launch and post-launch.
The more the community is appreciated for their efforts, the better. And we really appreciate the fact that you guys are recognizing that. You're one of the first to do that, actually. If you think about the percentage of worlds that are out there now, there's been a lot of content that's been pushed through from World of Warcraft as well as many others, which is great content. And it's great that they put that back into the next patch, the next version of the next expansion. But giving back to them also and providing the name and saying we sponsored that or we've learned from that or whatever else, that's great. And the fact that you guys realize that at least, that's phenomenal. Very, very excited to hear more about that.